So anybody who wants, yo, chat, I'm doing my job here, man. This is my job. I come clock in. Hey, listen, I don't, well, I do rap sometimes, but I wanted to be successful. I'm doing what I got to do to be successful, all right? If I got to go in the Lions Den, I'm going to go in the Lions Den. I'm going to get the info. I got to go take a flight 5 a.m. in the morning to get back to the stream because the Diddy trial is going on. I'm going to do it. Why? I'm a hustler. Ain't nobody going to outwork me, okay? So just for the Kendrick team, it ain't that serious for me. I love you guys from a business perspective. From business perspective, okay? But y'all never will change my feelings. Drake my favorite, okay? He's still my favorite. I'm sorry. His rapping is like the soundtrack to my life. Okay, let's get into it. So let me do a recap. So yesterday, remember I dipped out unceremoniously. And I dipped out before the evening session. And I wanted to play you the evening session about what happened in the afternoon. It was short. We left at around noon. They came back at 1. There was 2 hours left because court was dismissed at 3. Here we go. This will happen when I was going yesterday. I could read the tweets if you want, but I'll just have you watch her and Logic, and then we can move on into today's tweets.
U.S. versus Sean Combs, day 20, afternoon update. I'm doing my update right here at the courthouse because we ended a little early, but I have to just right off the bat tell you about a very hostile moment with Jane and Tenny Garagos, and it was pretty wild. I mean, there were gasps from the jury and there were gasps in the gallery, and it stemmed from a text exchange between Diddy and Jane. And Jane was upset because Diddy had been texting her about, she thought he was texting her because he missed her and he was bringing up 2 of the escorts that they had hotel sessions with. And then she sees a social media post of Diddy and a girl that he's with, spending quality time with. And I guess he also bought this girl a Chanel bag and she posted it. And Tenny's reading the text message that Jane sent him, and it's something along the lines about like, you just want to use me for the hotel stuff while you're spending quality time, and like you got her a Chanel bag, LOL, this shit's crazy, all this stuff. And Tenny's like, so I mean, you didn't get a Chanel bag? And Jane goes, no, I only got trauma. And she said, but you got a Bottega bag, because she had testified that he bought her a Bottega bag. And she said, but you got a Bottega bag and a Van Cleef. How much is a Bottega bag? And Jane says, how much is my body? And then at one point before that.
Whoa. So Daphne's being sassy up there. They ask her how much is the bag. She gets a little sassy. Whoa. I guess she interpreted the question to be, oh, you're trying to make it a thing that this bag has cost a lot of money. But how much is my body worth? Oh, wow, okay. Chat, that sounds like a sex worker to me. That sounds like sex worker vibes.
And I skipped over this, but at one point before that, Tenny said, what is a Bottega bag? And she said, you probably have one. That's what Jane said. And so after this, and she talked about the price, and she's like, how much? And Jane said a Bottega bag is $2,000, and then she's like, how much is the Chanel bag? And she's like, I don't know. And right before that, the judge kind of scolded Jane to just answer the questions. And then Jane was like, can we take a break? And then when we got back from the break, Jane actually apologized, and she just said, I apologize. And also, when we got back from the break, the judge told the jury that we were going to end early, and one of the jurors goes, yay. But okay, so essentially the cross this afternoon, I actually was very excited to leave, because I would say 90% of the afternoon was spent on explicit text messages. And when I say explicit, I mean, I'm an adult, I can handle it. These were very explicit, and Jane had to read most of them. So, and I think that was to sort of show that she would text Diddy that she was having fantasies about certain escorts, and, she would kind of explain herself and say, yeah, well, I was kind of placating, etc. But nevertheless, we did hear about texts that she sent, saying that these escorts turned her on and she was thinking about them, etc., etc. At another point, Tenny kind of brought up, you said like you hadn't really done anything in the 3 years that you were with Diddy,
Oh, Beto, who you talking about? You said, why are your friends beefing? Who's my friends are beefing? You talking about Trump and Elon?
And then she kind of brought up, but you had your dress line business. You also had a swimsuit business. You got to live in this beautiful house, kind of saying, your apartment before was X many square feet and now this house is double. You can raise your child in this. And she even brought up the fact that her dress line business was profitable. So she's like, in 3 years, you didn't really do nothing. You did do stuff. And Jane kind of said, well, it's here nor there, but I feel like I could have done a lot more, etc. Let me see what else. There was also just text messages between Jane and Diddy where she says, I wish you were here so we could play our videos, meaning the videos they recorded in the different hotel rooms. And then she showed us 2 instances of text messages where Diddy essentially says to Jane, and we saw kind of the same thing with Cassie, like we don't have to do any more of these hotel nights, or debauchery they called it. It can be just us. And okay, so then we saw this one text thread, again, more dirty text, but Jane tells Diddy that she feels sexiest when she's intoxicated off of wine. And Diddy responds, oh, I didn't know that. And they're kind of talking about hotel nights and what makes her feel the same. She feels sexiest when she's intoxicated off of wine. And
okay, so it looked like she was trying to tell Diddy, like, let's slow down with this drug shit, man. Like, let's slow down with all the consumption of this other stuff.
Diddy responds, oh, I didn't know that. And they're kind of talking about hotel nights and what makes her feel the sexiest. And he says, I didn't know that. You don't have to do Molly. And he also says something like, we don't have to get crazy for the rest of the year. And Jane says something like, it's okay with me, meaning like I don't mind necessarily getting crazy. That's fine. And Diddy says, what do you mean? And Jane testified that she took that whole thing as like an angry undertone when he said we don't have to go crazy for a year, almost kind of like a test. And that's my words, not hers, but that's how I kind of translated this. And Jane says, after he says, what do you mean? She said, I love that we have this freedom with one another. And Diddy says, you don't think I can do it, meaning not have a hotel night. And she says, I just know that there will be debauchery before the end of the year. I don't mind it. I just want some romance time. And Diddy says, I'm going to make you beg for debauchery. And then she gives like a laughing face and says, okay, let's try it, but I love it all with you. And then Diddy texts back.
This is kind of confusing because, at times, she seemingly more vehemently told Diddy, I don't want to do this shit no more. But then Diddy would butter her up and she'd be like, oh, I'll do it. Now, we keep bringing up this damn question. What is like manipulation versus what is you're doing this shit because you feel it's a way to keep a man? Like, are you being manipulated or are you making a choice?
I love the times that it's just me and you. And then again, we ended with just more text messages about hotel nights. And that was when she kind of said, I want him to play this video. And yeah, overall, it was just a day. It was an afternoon as well. So tomorrow, again, I mentioned there will be a short day. So I'll probably just do one update in the afternoon. But yeah, I think, that was pretty much it for the afternoon. All right, guys.
Okay, let me just play logic that we get a little different perspective here. And we're going to hop into what happened.
We just wrapped up day 20 of the Diddy trial. And if the actual jury is anything like the unofficial jurors, those who are watching the trial with me in the viewing room, they are deeply conflicted as to what to take away from Jane as to whether or not she's a victim of being trafficked. I am Joe Neerman.
Oh, wow. Remember, I said she was stronger than Cassie. Now, again, everything changes day by day, Chad. And that's why when you guys ask me questions and donations, I got to be honest with you, it's kind of like it's teetering back and forth.
AKA good logic. I'm a New York litigator who's practiced in this very courthouse in the Southern District of New York, and I come down to the trial for the purposes of breaking down for my audio right now. The opinions that I've heard about Jane are very divergent and very deeply felt, where it seems as if Jane that many feel very definitively that she's a victim of being trafficked, and others say straight out that woman was not at all trafficked. Let me break down for you perhaps why that is, and it should lead us to conclude that the actual jury is likely to spend a great deal of time debating over this third charge of the 5 charges brought against him, which is 18 U.S.C. 1591, sex trafficking Jane. Now, Jane is a pseudonym for Diddy's girlfriend from the period of 2021 to 2024. And on direct testimony, where she spent 2.5 days going through excruciating detail about her developing relationship with Diddy from its early heyday when everything was a romantic whirlwind until a few months later when she engages in the first hotel night. And hotel night is what Cassie Ventura, the first of his known trafficking victims, testified about and called a freak-off. So Jane refers to those as hotel nights, and those are extended sexual marathons where the woman is performing with another male entertainer, male performer, porn star, whomever, while Diddy watches and directs and often videotapes the events. And those hotel nights that Jane walked us through, which you've all heard about, the baby oil and the so many fluids we can't even go into it. The question that ultimately comes down for Jane is similar to the question that we had with Cassie, which is, are they acting of their own free will, or are they acting because they're being forced, coerced, compelled by Diddy? Now, when Jane is testifying, she routinely refers to Diddy as my partner or my lover, and a lot of people take away from that she's choosing to please her partner, her lover, and hence she cannot be coerced or compelled. Whereas other people are saying no, that he's holding the money, that he's inducing her with drugs, that he's at one point or another blackmailed her near the end of the relationship, but certainly not at the end, that he ended up actually beating her and choking her before having her engage in a hotel night a couple of hours later. And they look at that as clear signs of her being compelled. The other form of there being force or compulsion is in the form of fraud in the inducement. What do we mean by that? Well, she talked a lot about the fact that she would engage in a hotel night so that they would then afterwards go on a yacht or go on a cruise or go to this place or that place, and that never happened. And the state wants us to believe that he was intentionally trying to deceive her for the purpose of getting her to do it, and that he was basically acting fraudulently with her, and that should qualify as compulsive or a basis for the compulsory element in the charge of 18 U.S.C. 1591 sex trafficking. Now, we spent all day on cross-examination. Tenny Garagos for the defense is the one who was engaged in the cross, and I want you to just understand the dynamic here. When Tenny was doing the cross-examination of Cassie on day one, she conducted it like it was a People magazine interview. She ultimately got a little bit more aggressive. That is not the tone she took with Jane today. I wouldn't call it aggressive. I don't think that she was bullying the witness at any time today, but it was certainly more directed. And the nature of the questions that she was asking was designed to elicit a feel from the witness that she was completely okay with everything that was going on here. Now, for her part, the witness seemed very well composed, and there was pretty much a very boring day of cross-examination, far less entertaining than a lot of other days that we've had so far. And with one exception of a moment which everyone sat up in their chair and was like, whoa! And I'll get to that in a moment. But her demeanor has basically been very matter of fact. I'm talking about Jane's demeanor, that she seems to be in control and totally okay with answering questions and just saying that this is the way things went down. And the tone that she keeps and the messaging that she keeps giving as she's asked questions about the fact that she was involved in selecting some of the male entertainers, and we've heard a lot about these male entertainers, that it was all a matter of pleasing my partner, pleasing my lover, that she wasn't willfully going down this road, but that she was trying to please her partner, please her lover. She talked about that when she was questioned about the nature of her friendship or developing relationship on a friend level with some of these male performers, that she described Paul as having a warm energy, or described Don as being handsome. These are different performers who we heard a lot about during her 2.5 days of direct, and that she basically seemed to be comfortable with them, that she's texting Anton, who's a third one, and that she chose out Cabral, thought that he was attractive. And the idea that Tenny Garagos of the defense wants to take away is that she's comfortable with these guys. She enjoys the sex with them. That one of the sexual encounters she had, she called the most intense sexual experience of her life. Now, Jane responds to something like that he gave me a drug, which I had, a form of Molly that I had never had before, and it served to make her sexual appetite incredibly heightened, and that's why she ended up feeling that way. Not that she had any personal desire specifically for any of these entertainers, and that her whole agenda throughout this entire time was to please her partner. Now, the interesting thing is, as I said, a lot of people take away from this that she was just putting up an act, and they believe what Jane is putting out there, that the reason that she's engaging in lengthy sexual text exchanges, which we spent hours today going text exchange by text exchange of the most, you're so sexy, blah, 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 you turn me on, blah, 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 what do you think about having a hotel night here, he's so hot, blah, 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 just on and on. So she was trying to explain, and she seemed to be very calm in saying, I was giving my partner what he wanted. I was giving my lover the fantasy that he wanted, and trying to say that the justification for it was that she can tell that this is what he wanted. Now, there was a lot of people took away from this that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense if you understand how this dynamic of this relationship is going. And that, yeah, she was, those are the parties who were saying she was trafficked. Others are saying you can't take no accountability for all these things he threw out there. There's got to be some sort of accountability. And it leads me to conclude that we're likely going to see a very conflicted jury, specifically over the third charge of the 5 charges brought against Diddy, the 18 U.S.C. 1591, sex trafficking, as it relates to Jane. I think they're likely to be very conflicted with very strong opinions as to she was definitely trafficked or she was definitely not trafficked. But I really want to get into the terse exchange, which was the one exciting moment of testimony today. There was a point in time where one of the issues which would develop a fight between Jane and Diddy was about the fact that she felt she had been compartmented into this type of role of serving as his pleasure zone toy, and that she wanted to be a girlfriend, and that the only reason she was doing this whole type of performance was to spend quality time with him. And she would occasionally see things in gossip magazines or on Facebook or whatever, that she would get notifications about other girlfriends of his who were getting what she deemed to be quality time. And she defined quality time as she defined, getting the good boyfriend as getting quality time and dining and shopping and things of that nature. Well, Tenny Garagos, for the defense, tried turning that into saying that she wanted money from him, that she wanted the gifts. And she started going into a fight that unfolded shortly after Jane had seen a Facebook post from a girlfriend where she was all excited about a Chanel bag that she had gotten from Diddy. And then she goes through the text exchange that came out of that, where Jane gave a pretty insightful breakdown where Diddy had started off by saying how he missed her, and she's like, you don't miss me, you miss the performance I'm able to give you, but whatever, you do whatever you want, go off and lay around with whoever it is that you want. And that she was giving him attitude, expressing her frustration with the fact that, and the way she explained it was that she's the performer, and that's all she gets to get. She wants to be the girlfriend, and the other ones get the actual girlfriend type quality time from him. So Tenny said to her, so you didn't get a Chanel bag? And Jane responded, no. I got trauma. Everyone was like, whoa! And then she started asking her about different bags, trying to say that she got a different bag, I think it's called a bodega bag or something, and asking her how much a bodega bag costs, and she said a lot less than my body. So that was the one scuffle between Jane and Tenny Geragos during the entire cross-examination today. A few moments after that Jane asked to have a break and things settled back down. But it was, like I said, it was excruciatingly long. And much of the time, I personally, when I was watching this, I was like, I don't know what we're getting out of this. I don't know what to take away from all of this. They're reading through one blah 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 text exchange after another. What am I supposed to get? What am I supposed to get from this? So she's talking about freak-offs, or not freak-offs, but hotel nights, or about this guy, and basically having one very explicit text exchange after another where they're both talking about engaging in hotel nights, and she's going to say that her motivation was that she was trying to give her lover what he wants. It felt very tedious to me, and I actually felt as if the defense had wasted most of the day. But then I get in an elevator. After we wrap up for the day, I get in an elevator with a whole bunch of folks who are all sitting watching this testimony all day today. And it's a crowded elevator with like 15 of us. And as soon as the doors close, one guy goes, that woman is not a victim of being trafficked. And 5-6 people around me are all like, yeah, no way at all. She's how do you call that trafficking? And they all seem to be on the same page that she's not trafficked. And yet I talk to other people here who seem to get angry at me if I imply to them that there's an argument to be made that she was not trafficked. And that's why I foresee that this third charge is likely to be something that the
Somebody said Diddy dropped a song called Private Entertainer in 2021. Really?
jury will similarly be hotly divided over as to whether or not she's a victim. That's what I got for you today. We wrapped up at 3 o'clock today. Tomorrow we start at 1 p.m. It's a late start tomorrow. I'll be back here to cover that for you. This is Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. If you like this type of content, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that.
We live. You want that dick? Can you get that dick? And
now, switch up the outfit. Holy.
you testified on the stand that it wasn't your fault, that because the Puffy encouraged you, you reached out to Cabral and y'all got together, and after the first time you and Cabral got together with Puff, there was no money exchanged. Puffy suggested they get a girl to come. It'd be Puffy, Jane Doe, and another honey. Jane Doe testified that I was happy and surprised because Puffy never had a girl do that. Now, supposedly, Cabral took one of these tapes of the hotel night and sold it to a media company.
This must have been a wrap up for the whole day. Hold on, let's get to the end of the day.
The next time I see you, I'm going to do something different. Puffy texts her back, we don't have to do Molly. Jane Doe, we can get slutty the following day. Puffy, we don't have to go crazy the rest of the year. Let's switch it up. I believe it when I see it. Jane Doe, I love your intensity. I love our level of eroticism. It's on another level. Puffy said, nope, I'm gonna make you beg for debauchery. Jane Doe, you definitely intoxicate me. Every stroke you give me. Do you remember the time? Do you remember the time when we fell in love? Do you? Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. And I don't believe Nothing what they said about Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. When he was with the Jackson 5 and had the big afro back in 1975. Wasn't nobody bigger than the Jackson 5. Nobody was big. Puffy wasn't bigger than the Jackson 5. Jay-Z, nobody bigger than the Jackson 5. Nobody was bigger than Michael Jackson.
Nah, I'm feeling it today.
Michael Jackson, Jane Doe. Do you remember the time when we fell in love? All right, Jane Doe. Prince couldn't mess. Prince money though. Prince mean. I'm live on my YouTube. You want to say hi to my? Do you remember the time we had that? Do you remember the time we had that was intense? I can't believe we came at the same time. I wish you were here so we can watch our videos on TV.
That's Jane saying that?
And lock ourselves in the room all day. Puffy texts her back. Tomorrow night we gonna do it. Jane Doe texts him back, okay, and puts the water emoji. Water, 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 water. You know how you be with a honey? You be texting with a honey and y'all be talking sex and then you put like, maybe like the eggplant and then you put the water, water, water. All Jane Doe's emojis to Puffy be the water, water, water. Water, water, water. On Christmas, Jane Doe bought, yeah, there it go right there. There it go right there. Everybody put the water. She's sitting at the pump. Put the water in there. Where that water at? There it go.
Hey, chat, what that mean? If you texting a girl and she like can't wait to see you and she put the little, y'all know the emoji, right? This right here. She hit you with this. This is the message right here. She said, I can't wait to see you, and she put this right after it. What that mean, Chad? What that mean? Y'all gotta break it down. Break it down. What that mean?
There it go. Every time she texts Puff, that be her emoji. Water, water, water. But listen. But sometimes me too. Yo, if I be texting with a honey, I be like this. I be texting with a honey. And she take me there. I put water, water, water too. Yes, I do.
Nah, Uncle Freak too. We knew Uncle was having his own freak offs. He looked like he knew the dynamics.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And you know what she do back to me? You know what the honey do back to me? She send me the water, water back too. She know what it is. She know what the fuck it is. She know what it is. She better send it back. She better send it back. Or she won't see me. Alright, so on Christmas, Jane Doe bought Puffy's 3 daughters some teddy bears for Christmas. And Puffy texted her, that was so sweet. Jane Doe texts Puffy back saying, the way you made me come, I've never came that hard before in my life. Your dick was hard, deep, and wet. You light my fire, you blow my mind. That's Jane Doe. That's Jane Doe.
Damn.
What y'all want from me?
That's how
What y'all
she.
want from me? What y'all want from me? That was it. That was the end. So we ended early today. Tomorrow, court don't start until 1 o'clock. So I will not be doing, I may come, you know what? She's not gonna do that. She's not South now. Them country girls, they love niggas from up north. But let me say this too. I gotta keep it real. I gotta keep it real. Foundational Black American men from up north, we love them country girls, man. Words, they used to like it. Yeah, they did.
Nah, I'm just saucy right now.
Love dudes from Jersey and New York. Love us. Soon as I go down there, it don't be no problem for me. It ain't never been no problem for me. But anyway, Jane Doe wanted to fight. Jane Doe wanted to fight Tenny Cabrego. She lost her cool. You understand? Young Miami. You understand? She don't like to hear Young Miami name. She have a fit.
Oh.
Jane Doe have a fit when she hear Young Miami.
Word?
Man, them down south girls know how to cook. They know how to cook. They wash clothes. Man, don't let the kitty cat be good. If the kitty cat be good, nigga be open. Open like a window. Open like a token. Open like a token. Hey, DC Pro, all I gotta do when I go down south, all I gotta do is start talking. They hear my accent, they be like, they start giggling and shit, looking at me. I be like, yeah, you know what it is. You see it. You see it. You see it. And I look good too. And I'm fly too. They be like, yeah, that's one of them. He from New York. He from New York. Be like, nah, never that. Never New York. From Jersey over there. Jersey over there. On the other side of the water. You got the Hudson River. On this side, you got New York. Tallahassee, what up? I'm live on my YouTube.
Illegally. People want to come here and live the American dream. It says it on the Statue of Liberty. Bring us your time.
Okay. They talking about some ice shit. All right, bet. Let's get into today's chat. Here I am. Big Act in the building. Let's go. This is the afternoon session. There's only afternoon session today. So let's get into it. So the judge says, should we talk about anything before the jury comes in? And does the defense want to respond to the government on the juror issue? Alexander Shapiro says there's a thinly veiled attempt to exclude a black jury or juror. So the AUSA wants a juror off of the panel. Apparently, they think that this person is maybe subvertly, maybe like has a connection with Diddy. And they're watching Diddy's body language. They're watching the jurors. If they're looking at Diddy a lot, they're watching if they're sending like little signals. And they feel like there's an issue. I'm not saying it's that, but there's an issue with one of the jurors. They want to exclude them. Alexander Shapiro says, yeah, this is a problem. Well, we can't exclude this juror. This juror was picked to be of the original 12. Also, it's a black juror. Why are we going to get him out? AUSA says we look at the record and we found lack of candor. Now, lack of candor means someone who's untruthful, someone who has not told or become forthcoming about either their past, about their proclivities and such nature. The judge says, we'll deal with it before the weekend. Are the jurors ready? They say no. The judge says, let's take 10 minutes. They take a little break. And now they're waiting for the jurors. Combs is reading something and talking to Ignifilo on one side. Shapiro is one seat away about the juror the U.S. wants to remove, probably. They said they're waiting for the jury. Okay. So all rise. The judge says, Garagos, you can proceed. Tenny says, I want to admit this exhibit under seal. Can you read that, Jane? It's messages from December 2021 between yourself and Cabral. That's a sex worker if you don't know. After a hotel night. Jane says, yes, I could see it. What about that night? You had a pretty intense night, right? Daphne says, yes. Tenny says, he says to you, you were talking so dirty to me. I love it. Jane says, I'm just being friendly here. Garrigo says, after your long hotel night, you saw him with Gina? She saw Diddy with Gina. So keep in mind, chat. This is why I keep telling you, I don't think Gina gonna take the stand. Gina is what we call a bottom bitch. Bottom bitch. Like, she's a chick. He fucks while he's with other girls. She never gets claimed, but she never goes nowhere. Loyal one. Real loyal one. Real talk. Cassie was complaining about Gina. The new girl is complaining about Gina 2 or 3 years later, and Gina was never the main. Gina never became the main. Gina never got main status, And let's say his main was Cassie. Cassie complained about Gina. Cassie breaks up with him 2018. He's still fucking Gina, still getting this shit off with Gina. Gina did try to expose him, though. But he got her back under the wing. 3 years goes by, he starts fucking with 50's baby mom. Gina's still on the roster. So she like a real bottom bitch. I ain't gonna hold you. Okay. So now it says, then Cabral wrote to you that he'd be in LA and he'll stay to see you if you wanted. Jane says yes. Garrigo says, what did you say? Jane says, I said it's my birthday weekend and you don't show me no love. Garrigo says, did you ask him to send you a personal video? Jane says yes. Garrigo says, wait. So that night you saw the Italian entertainer who we'll just call the entertainer, right? She says yes. And Sean had taken up with Young Miami. She says yes. So it appears that Daphne goes to fuck a entertainer without Puff, but she goes to fuck the guy because Diddy's with Young Miami now. Diddy just came off being with Gina. Remember, Diddy got a roster. He can't clone himself. It's only so much dick one man could give. Or actually ain't giving dick at all. He, so much Astroglide he could put on. So now he was with Young Miami. So yes. Garrigo says, and you said if you don't get your ass out of the island, no party, right? Right. Sean wrote you a note. Say you meant the world to him. You told KK you wanted to make it cute and romantic, right? She said, yeah. Garrigo says the Valentine's Day hotel night, having two men there. Was that your idea? She said, yeah, it was. After these nights, it was crushing to see these things. Garrigo says these things like Gina posting a love bracelet on Instagram, right? She says yes. Let's look that up. She posted a bracelet. She blocked me, so I got to see if we can find it. But supposedly she had a love bracelet. Can't really find it. Fuck it. All right. Garrigo says, here you are planning to reach out to Sean and perhaps reach out to the Italian. Jane says, yeah, I was still doing that then. So she's planning all these hotel nights. So you could tell Diddy is starting to realize, like, let's use some common sense. Diddy's starting to realize she getting too jealous. She too clingy. She think that dick is all hers. She thinks he belongs to her. Diddy done told her he's polyamorous. He got other girls. He pays her bills, but he wants to do his thing. She's constantly dick watching. Oh, you was with Gina? You was with Young Miami? She's starting to feel like that. You could tell, and use our brains here, people. Diddy starts to pull back a little bit. So how she gets Diddy back in, it's the same thing with Cassie. Didn't I say that also with Cassie, chat? I said, at first, it was Diddy pushing let's do a freak off. Let's do a freak off. Let's do a freak off. After 2012, it was Cassie that was suggesting these things, hitting up the men without even Diddy telling her. Why? She knew that's the only way she could get some time with him. Diddy wasn't volunteering his what they would call alone time to these women anymore. So Jane is doing this, saying she's setting up a hotel night with Sean and the Italian. Garrigo says, can you FaceTime? Jane said, that's what he said. Garrigo says, 10 days later, you had another hotel night, right? She said, maybe. Garrigo says, I'll just refresh your recollection of seeing Mr. Combs and having a hotel night with him. Okay, she looks at whatever. They're not going to show in the gallery. She says, okay, yeah, I did. So you pretty much had no hotel nights until the end of June, right? She said, maybe. Okay. Here, Mr. Combs says, I'm jerking my dick thinking of how nasty you're going to be to me, right? She says, yes. Garrigo says, he says, call Italian or Paul is free, and you like Paul, right? Paul is free, right? She says yes. Garrigo says, sounds like he gave you a choice, and you chose. She said yes. Garrigo says, he responds, I told Paul 11 p.m. Is that okay? And let's watch porn first. She says yes. Garrigo says, he says London Hotel. What would you get? Jane says stripper, shoes, shorts, maybe whips. Garrigo says, shorts? Well, why the hell would you get shorts? Jane says, I was really turned off by their shorts, so I got other shorts for them. It was not fun to wait for them to be erect, so I started to get things on the side that they could get hard. I got pills at the stores. I got them the Rhino. Come on, chat. One in the chat if you ever fuck with a Rhino. I never did, but have y'all. One in the chat if you've ever fucked with the Rhino. I'm not buying nothing from a gas station. Now I ain't gonna hold you. I'm not buying no pills, no medicine from no goddamn gas station. But one in the chat if you ever fuck with a Rhino pill. Ant-Man just put 2. Ant-Man, you know damn well you were fucking with a Rhino. Was the honey packs not out there? Garrigo says the next day, he says, want to go to dinner at 9, bring the freak bag. What y'all know about the freak bag, chat? What y'all know about the freak bag? Bring the freak bag just in case. Jane says, right. The lingerie and the rest. Garrigo says, but didn't you have a freak night that night? Let me refresh your recollection. And this is an exhibit on their seal. Looks like it's a picture of a video. Garrigo says, he says, I'm about to work out with Paul. Then I want to see you. You say hair up? Jane says that was probably a FaceTime between these two. Garrigo says, he says, did you want to hit Italian? Right? Did you want to hit Italian, right? Jane says, yes, I did not want to. Huh? Garrigo says, Sean says, Paul is all we need. You say LOL. Why'd you say that? Or what'd you say after? I say I'll go to the store unless you get a head start. What did you mean by that? Jane says I will go unless you got to the hotel ahead of me. Garrigo says, but then you spent several days at his home, didn't you? She said maybe. Garrigo says, you really did love him though, right? She says, I did. Do you remember seeing Sean in September 22 and not having a hotel night? Maybe it was a 9th. Jane says, I'm not too sure. Now, do you see that you saw him, but there was no hotel night? Jane says, that is incorrect. Okay, what about September 4th? Jane says, we took a jet to Vegas. He performed. Then we had a hotel night with an entertainer. Garrigo says, do you remember seeing him on the 20th and not having a hotel night? She said, I'm not sure. Let me show you this. Does it refresh your recollection? She says, I guess it did. I guess I did. Did Sean pay for your birthday dinner? Yes. What was the restaurant? I can't remember the name. Did you have a good time? I had an okay time. You wrote, is Nobu the only place? How about something outside of the hotel? Jane says he conveniently put me in the hotel with Nobu. I suggested Poppy Steak. One in the chat if you ever heard one of these little thoughts talk about Poppy Steak. Poppy Steak. Come on now, chat. Poppy Steak. She wanted Poppy Steak. Diddy said Nobu. Garrigo said that was a nice hotel or a nice restaurant in Miami. Or so I've heard. No. Well, Garrigo said, is that a nice restaurant in Miami? She said, so I've heard. Garrigo says, Valentine's Day, the year before, he was in a different country. You wrote, get your ass back from that island, right? Jane says yes. Garrigo says, then at Nobu, you accepted it. Let me make sure I understand what I'm reading. Valentine's Day the year before, he was in a different country. You wrote, get your ass back from that island, right? Yes. Then at Nobu, you accepted it. Accepted what? Jane says, I would say I went along with it. Garrigo says, you said accepted. Jane says, my stuttering was trying to find the right word for the pressure I felt. Garrigo says, did you mean agitation? She said, yes. You said he gave you your birthday gift. It was a necklace. She says, yes. Garrigo says, did you take this photo? Jane says, yes. Garrigo says, we'll put this under seal. It was a Van Cleef necklace, right? She said, yes. Garrigo says, could you explain what Van Cleef is? Says it's a jewelry brand that's high-end. In the photo, I had already taken drugs. Any time of affection made me smile. So Garrigo says, you took a mirror selfie. Jane says, unfortunately, yes. Garrigo says, did Sean give the entertainer a condom that night? She says, yes. Are these your texts with Cabral? Jane says, I was high. It was 2:40 in the morning. UCT time, right? Yes. So it was night, East Coast time. Yes. You invited Cabral for the next day. But wouldn't the ecstasy have worn off by then? Jane says, in these nights, I repeatedly took ecstasy. Garrigo says, you say you will book his travel for the next day, right? Jane says, yes. Garrigo says, what did you write her? Jane says, I wrote, I appreciate everything you did for my birthday. I wanted to give you everything you wanted Valentine's Day. They said, what did you mean? Jane says, the necklace and your lovemaking only in regard to him. So basically saying she appreciated that Diddy got her the Van Cleef necklace and that he made love to her. Garrigo says, then you send him photos of your guys in the hotel room. She says, yes. You didn't tell him you didn't like it until you saw him with Carisha and Turks, right? Jane says, yes. It was hurtful after enduring what I endured. So that's important. She's basically saying she never told Diddy that she didn't enjoy these freak-offs until she saw Diddy with Carisha. Wow. Wow. That kind of goes into you're more jealous than you're doing something against your will. Garrigo says, you reached out to Cabral? She says, yes, under the pressure of my lover. Garrigo says, you asked him and he gave the man a condom. Jane says, yeah, the last minute, thank God. Garrigo says, you wrote to him, I loved and appreciate every detail you put into my birthday. So she told Diddy after the freak-off, I loved and appreciate every detail you put into my birthday. Jane says, I wrote that in regard to Sean. Garrigo says, you wrote that to Sean, but you stopped talking to him right after. What happened? She said, I was heartbroken. I flew to Paris Fashion Week. Garrigo says, did you enjoy it? Jane says, yes. Garrigo says, this is a text message chain between you, Sean, in March of 2023. On the second day, he wrote, I'm sorry I called you a bitch. I deserve this. Love. Right? She says, yes. Garrigo then says, he then writes, when can you come to Turks? Right? She says, yes. Garrigo says, you sent him a heart emoji and wrote, what we have is special, right? Jane says, yes. Garrigo says the budget for your trip was $100,000. She says, yes. Damn, Diddy was vacationing. $100,000 they spent. Jane says, yes. Garrigo says, and he spent $55,000, right? Jane says, I don't know. Garrigo says, you felt like he didn't like you up and leaving to Paris. Jane says, no, he didn't like that. Garrigo says, you went to the Mondrian Oriental and watched pornography with Sean, right? She says, yes. Then Sean asked you about bringing Dawn, right? Jane says, given the situation, I said yes. Garrigo says, you said if you known Paul would be there, you wouldn't have gone to Turks. Jane says, I wouldn't have. Garrigo says, well, did you write Cabral from there and invite him to come there? Jane says, yes, under encouragement from my partner. Yes, I did. So you see what happened there. She said, if I knew I was going to Turks and there was going to be a prostitute, I wouldn't have went. But they have her on messages where she says she invites another prostitute while she's there. And she's like, I'll book your flight. So they're saying if you didn't like this and you say you wouldn't have went to Turks if there was going to be a male entertainer, why would you invite another male entertainer? Well, you're there. Garrigo says, were you happy when Sean gave you diamonds? Jane says, I thought that was so sweet. Garrigo says, were you glad to get diamonds? Jane says, nah, I just wanted Sean. Garrigo says, you wrote, I wanted diamonds. Right? Comey says, objection as to form. It's a rephrase. Garrigo says, do you remember telling Sean that you would let Sean go too far, that you'd let him go too far, and it was your fault? She said yes. Garrigo says, Your Honor, I think this would be a good place to take a break. Judge says, okay, all rise. They take a break. They're back. Judge says, are we all ready? Except for the absence of Mrs. Comey. AUSA says, Your Honor, we've reached you. Comey enters. The judge says, bring Jane Doe back. The jury enters in Jane Doe. Ms. Garrels, you may proceed. Garrigo says, you wrote, all I have in mind right now is your passionate lovemaking, right? She says, yes. Garrigo says, you saw him 2 weeks later and never had a hotel night, right? She said, maybe. Garrigo says, let's play this voice note. I believe there's no objection. Comey says, I don't have it on my list, but if Ms. Garrigo's represents I have no objections, I won't. Garrigo says, give me a minute, I'll move on. Did you ask about hotels or Airbnbs? She says yes. Garrigo says, and Sean asks, how do you know there ain't no cameras in the Airbnb, right? Jane says, yes, I wrote they could be covered by security. We'll just say it's our anniversary and we want to cover them to feel comfortable. Garrigo says, what did you write to Sean? Jane says, you make my child happy. I love you. She starts crying. She tells Diddy, you make my child.
Left the barbershop and I'm just.
What the fuck? She tells Diddy, you make me and 50 Cent's son feel so happy. I love you. But she's crying on the stand. Garrigo says, it's okay. Take all the time you need. Jane says, I do remember. So are you ready? You ready to go? She says, yes. So in this, where are you? So in this picture, it's a hotel night. They introduced something, but it's sealed. 3136 is sealed. She's starting to cry, y'all. She's starting to cry.
Every day is.
I think it's this, huh?
We on set of my new podcast called Carisha Please. Carisha Please is my shit. It's
Your
my
shit.
show where we do things real, raw, and uncut. We ain't sugarcoating shit, and we get to all the smoke. So today's guest, we got the one and only Mr. Billionaire
Is this Croatia, though?
Diddy.
You call me Billionaire Day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one and only.
Yeah, the motherfucking one and only. What's up?
Before we get into the smoke, we gotta have a drink.
This interview is being brought to you by Delion.
Oh, man. Diddy wasn't shit. Okay. So he had admitted that he had had sex on his yacht trip. Wow. It appears, and didn't I tell y'all, chat? Young Miami and how he treated her fucked up his whole situation. he treated her very different than he treated the rest. I told you that from with Cassie. I think Cassie filed the lawsuit because she felt away. Diddy told me bitches couldn't talk to him like that. How's she talking to him like that? Diddy told me he don't do shit like that for bitch. How did? Exactly.
Bro, the jacket a little too tight.
Like,
Here we go.
I'm just not going for that.
So do you feel like with dating Diddy, like, was it a business relationship? Do you feel like it was beneficial for you?
I feel like it was beneficial for both of us. I think that, like, you know, I was able to come and be a brand ambassador for Deleon and take it to a whole nother level, because I feel like, I won't say nobody wasn't drinking Deleon, but
Nobody wasn't drinking Deleon.
but when I came, it was just like, it's a city or a summer, we drinking Deleon, we acting bad. So I feel like I was an asset. I honestly just feel like with Diddy, like, you know, I met him at a P party and I don't know what his intentions was, but I don't know if it was like business or he really liked me, but I felt like, you know, when he got me, he really saw something in me, and that's why he was like, you know what, you got a big personality, like you should do a podcast, like you know how to engage in conversations, like you know how to ask good questions. So I felt like, you know, I came into his world and I was able to like turn everything he had going on up a notch. Like, you know, he had Deleon, I was able to have the whole world drinking Deleon, putting in his songs, like I made it popular, you know?
Yeah.
And then with Revolt, I was able to come and make it the #1 podcast on Revolt.
Yeah.
So I felt like, you know, and then with him, it was like he was able to, you know, take my career to the next level. I did the Met Gala. I got ready with Vogue. Like I wasn't going into the relationship thinking like, I want to get a purse. I want to go on private jets. I want to get diamonds. Like I feel like I'm up under a mogul. I want to learn something. You know, like I want to learn business. I want to learn how to. Okay, you got a network. How can I get a network? Or you know, you had a Sean John. How can I make Carisha Please the next Sean John? So I went into that relationship like on a like more of like I want to become a mogul and I want to learn up under you. You know, most people just want to get their body done. You want to get the trip. You want to. Just do that video. No, I wasn't one of them.
And I that's what I respect about you, because even though you a city girl, me being your best friend and knowing you very womanly. I always say that. And like just a grown woman. And so I even seen the elevation in your production and your team that you started hiring business managers.
Hello.
And I was like,
I think that like when you get around people, you see certain things. Like you able to like you should be able to learn something from somebody. And I felt like I was able to see like how should my business be operating. Like I should have a chief of staff.
Yeah.
I should have a business manager. You know, I should have all of these things in place. And that's what I was learning. Like I took that more of like a learning experience as far as like trying to become a mogul. That's why I'm like, I'm a mogul. I'm a businesswoman.
And I feel like
the song was never mentioned. And he was
really like to
invest because
But it hasn't shown up yet. It looks like it's unlikely he would show up if he's doing an interview now. It's with the bodyguard Roger Bonds, who speaks about how Diddy felt about 50 Cent.
You know, I'm whatever. Do you feel on some level that Cassie really enjoyed it and really liked it, and maybe certain times she didn't? To me, it doesn't seem like she was being forced every time.
Right.
What do you think, based on being around them?
I think it was drugs. Oh. You know what I'm saying? I think a certain amount of drugs is gonna make you feel a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So and I think that's one of the things that we all hear is about the amount of drugs that they was doing. So you probably doing it to get to that point where you really don't care or you really do enjoy. So if I had to answer it, I would say depending on how much drugs they did, I think it was times that she really did enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? I think it was times that she actually didn't remember it. You know what I'm saying? I remember one conversation, but I just had my ears open and I heard Puff say, yo, man, I don't remember that shit. I was high, yo. So when I hear about some of the stuff that they say and he say, yo, I didn't remember I was high, I know that some of that shit is true because I heard him say that shit before.
Now, 50 Cent's baby mother, Daphne Joy, was mentioned. And I know that she was hanging around Puff. Was that after you left?
Yeah, that was after.
So you never saw her?
Nah.
Okay.
Nah.
Got it. You know, 'cause I guess,
him and Puff always had that off and on type of situation. We almost had a fight at the MTV Awards and all that stuff.
Okay, so he mentions this. I remember I mentioned this to Tony Ayo when he was on my show last week.
Right.
So I guess at one point there was some sort of friction with 50 Cent, and it was at the MTV Awards.
Right.
And I guess they were talking, and Diddy was like, I don't like that all that back and forth stuff. I like guns.
Okay.
Do you remember that conversation?
I don't remember that conversation because him and 50 went off to the side, but I remember it was just me and Diddy there. And it was Yayo and a bunch of dudes from Queens sitting there, and it was 50, and Puff was like, yo, I'm just going to walk up on him and punch him in his face. And
Wait.
Yeah.
Puff said he's going to walk up on 50 Cent and punch him in the face.
Yeah, he said, I'm just going to punch him in the face. And I said, yo, what are you talking about? He said, yo, ain't that your man? Ain't that your man? He said, man, go talk to your man. I said, yo, hold up, B, because he knew me and Yayo was tight.
Hold on.
He said,
let me see if I get Yayo on the phone real quick. Hold on a sec. I gotta hold on. This is too good.
He was gonna sock out.
I try to get Yayo on the phone.
Yeah,
just to get his reaction to this.
So I try to talk some sense in Puff head because the other people that was around is just crash dummies. Whatever Puff say do, they do. Me, I'm thinking about the repercussions. So I said, no matter how tight me and Yayo is, you punch his man in the face, all of them niggas is getting up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just me and him. So I said, yo, B, you can't do that, man. I said, yo, it's just me and you here. He said, what, you scared? You scared? I said, nah, I ain't scared. I said, I'm just telling you like that don't make no sense. So him and 50 talked. And then after about 10 minutes of them talking, he said, all right, come on, yo, let's go. And then Yayo came up and me and him started talking. And he told Puff, yo, you know who you got with you? He was like, yeah, I know. Woo, woo. And that was the end of that. Because that was like a conversation and a beef and a problem that was over my head. Yeah, it was there because we bumped into him. But I know that they talk on the phone all the time or they deal with stuff a different way. And then it was times when we got together and they act like they was hunky-dory. So I really didn't know what was going on with them. It was an off and on type thing.
Yeah. When I mentioned the whole gun thing to Tony Yayo, I don't like to go back and forth. I got guns. Tony was like, yeah, we're into guns too.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
We're ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have bulletproof trucks. After Diddy and 50 had been doing some press for MTV, Diddy told her that he was having some problems with 50 and that I like guns, in terms of dealing with it.
We like guns too. At that point, niggas would have got eradicated. It would like, come on, bro. We have bulletproof trucks. Like, we like guns too. Like, when it come to 50 and us, we beef with the best of them. Like, I never had a friendship with Diddy. I never had a friendship with not too many people in the industry. So that's all I know. But at that point, like in my 20s at that time, and still to now, like I'm just keeping it real. I don't want to say anything crazy because the internet has been indicting people lately. So I don't want to say that crazy. But like I'm just like, that would have been crazy for him. I think Diddy was just talking that day. I think he was just talking. I think he just wanted to look.
Tony Ayo one of them.
Good, cuz come on, bro. No way.
I remember how 50 of them used to wear the bulletproof vests on stage?
Yeah.
And so forth. I remember being in G-Unit offices. This was about maybe 2004 or so.
Okay.
And, I would show up with my camera. This was when I was a DJ and I was doing DVDs. And I remember Tony Yayo walks into G-Unit offices, takes off his jacket, and he had a bulletproof vest on, just walking around.
Right.
This is not a stage prop.
Right.
This is not for entertainment. Yayo was really wearing a vest.
Right. That's when they was beefing with Jimmy Henchman.
With Jimmy Henchman. Because remember, his Bentley got shot up.
Right.
So Yayo was like, oh, okay, he should have done that. We were ready for that.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Jimmy even told me that. Jimmy even said they not to be played with, Bonds. He said they not to be played with. And hearing that from him was a surprise to me.
I mean, look, I know 50, I'm not best friend.
Interesting. Here we go, by the way.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, it's Wednesday, June 11th, day 21 of the U.S. versus Sean Combs trial. Now, there were some hiccups yesterday because, as happened with Mia, where they put up an exhibit and then made threats for noting that the exhibit had been published. It was apparently an error, but that's not the press's fault, I don't think. Yesterday, Tinny Garagos was questioning Jane, the witness known as Jane, and identified the gender, which I'm tactfully, now that they've exited out, not revealing, but they did exit out in the transcript, and the whole thing's become kind of untenable. There's a point at which it's imperative that both to allow live reporting and just for general First Amendment purposes, things said or shown in open court must be able to be reported without any kind of threats. So there's that. I'm coming up to Foley Square here, where there's a lot of TV trucks, and this is not for the Diddy trial. This is for the ICE protests. There have been many of them. Yesterday, this square was filled to the rim. The issues went beyond ICE, actually, including the mayoral race. There was a big chant for Zoran Mamdani. But today, the cameras are set up. Actually, this could be Diddy. I take that back. Early morning, it's Diddy. By the afternoon, ICE. And all night long, nothing but ICE. There behind me is the Second Circuit, where all of this may soon be headed. We actually have a case waiting for a decision up there about unsealing the sentencing letters of Sebastian Greenwood of the OneCoin crypto fraud. But I digress. Look behind. That is Foley Square. And hopefully the thread will begin today, just before 1 p.m. To be continued. Inner City Press.
Okay. I want to hear Megyn Kelly. Okay, good. See if we got some more tweets here, people. Okay, Gargo says, you propose Zero Bond or Casa Cipriani as two private clubs in New York, right? She said yes, but you ended up going to a lounge, right? She said yes. After you rejected a new entertainer for lack of chemistry, you called Cabral, right? She said yes. And you said that you were high that night and felt freer because you let Cabral do things you usually didn't. She said yes. Then you wrote to Mr. Combs, I love you so much. She says yes. So they're almost making it seem like this Cabral dude, she fucked him without Diddy. Because she heard Diddy was with Young Miami. Then when Diddy wanted to introduce someone, she said, I can't get along with this guy. Let me call up Cabral. Cabral comes through, knocks her down. He's doing things with her outside the norm. Oh, wow. I ain't gonna lie, her testimony's starting to stray a bit. Starting to stray, not gonna lie. Let me see.
Situations, or was she honestly enjoying it? I mean, as men, we know when a woman is enjoying being with us as opposed to like they're not really into us.
Yeah, so the answer to both questions is actually no. I didn't feel her that she was distressed in any way, but as much as my ego wants to say, yeah, she was feeling me, she was loving it or whatever, it was clear she's doing it for her man. But not from a point of, I never got, he's making me do it, right? I got, this is what he likes, this is what turns him on, I'm gonna hold my man down. And my vibe with her was so cool, I never saw it as, hey, look, I'm into this guy or not, but it's like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, this is a guy I'm comfortable with making this happen for. And you know, with all of the details coming out, I'm like, I'm tripping because I literally for all that time believed I was the only guy they were doing this with. Like I believed the story from day one. It was her birthday, they was trying something new, and now when they want to try this, I'm the go-to guy. And I was really walking around like to the few, because I didn't tell many people, but the few people I spoke to, I'm walking around like, yeah, you know, I'm Cassie's boy toy. You know, Diddy got all his girls. You know what I'm saying? Diddy got all his girls. But so I'm the guy that, yo, baby, you get a treat. And I'm the guy, like, I was just gassed for no reason, man. No reason.
Well, Cassie talked about how,
My bad.
you know, these male escorts would urinate in her mouth.
Whoa.
Did you ever do that?
Nah, man. I mean, you know, what I described
You're missing out, brother.
was literally what it was every single time. You know, I heard some of the testimony too, and you know, I can honestly say I didn't experience anything past what they call vanilla sex.
Okay.
There was nothing like crazy about it.
And you and Diddy never had any words together, interactions, conversations, anything?
Bro, the crazy thing about it is we never had eye contact.
Huh.
The first time I had eye contact with him was walking out of the courtroom after my testimony.
Okay. When did it stop?
Around March of 2015.
Okay. And how long did it go by that point? That was like 3 years, I guess?
It started September of 2012 and then ended March of 2015.
And the total sessions was what, about 12 or so?
I'm estimating. I estimate 8 to 12. I don't know exactly. I was assuming the federal government was going to tell me because, man, that was the craziest process ever, man. Because when they contacted me, they had more information than I had.
Huh.
I didn't even remember. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so.
That's the feds, which kind of tells you if they had more info than he did, how much are they feeding him the info as opposed to trying to jog his memory? Okay. Let's get some more tweets. Gargo says, you said that you were high that night and you felt free. You would let him do things you wouldn't normally let him do. Yes. You also wrote to Mr. Combs that you love him so much. Red, thank you for the 5, okay? Check who? Okay, I'll do it in a second. You wrote to Mr. Combs, I love you so much. Jane says, I did. Gargo says, you spoke about a sobriety party. You resented him for it, right? She said, yes. Gargo says, you wanted to break up with him after you saw him with Gina, right? Jane says, there was so many times I wanted to break up with him. Interesting. Okay.
She would say that dudes would like bust on her chest, and then she would go to Diddy and rub cum on his nipples.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that. Yeah.
You know what I said? When I heard that, I said, Puff can never win an argument with a man ever again. Because, you know, if y'all start arguing, all the guy has to say is, well, I didn't rub a dude's cum on my nipples.
Yeah. I was saying,
how do you
what
respond to that?
No, that's what I'm saying. He got to go back to jail now. So I'm saying to myself, like, what is you saying to these dudes back here? How is you looking at them? You still Puff. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that was crazy. That was from the, and then she said something about he would make her drink the cum and then go kiss him and do stuff like that.
Wait, he did that?
Yeah, that's what they said. You know,
that's called, I know what that's called. It's called a snowball.
Is it?
Yeah, if a dude, this is like a porn term.
Yo, Vlad, how you know this, bro?
Like,
Okay.
Not the kind of porn I watch, mind you.
Okay.
But I've just heard about this before. It's like you know, like cuckold type porn.
Okay.
Like dudes would come in a girl's mouth and she would like not swallow, then go kiss the cuckold and kind of spit the cum in his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing. A cuckold thing.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Definitely not my thing.
Yeah, that's
Definitely
crazy
not
right
my
there.
thing.
I'm
Nothing I've ever
I'm
even
trying to
considered
identify
doing.
with the nut on your nipples. What is that doing?
I don't know, man.
You know?
But here's the thing, right? And I've said this. With everyone taking the stand, and these are people that were really around Puff, these are escorts, this is Cassie, you know, so forth and so forth.
Right.
You see all this stuff that's gay-ish, right? Rubbing a dude's cum on your nipples is
Right.
gay-ish. But no one has said, and then Puffy got head from a dude. Even the Punisher dude said, me and Puffy had no interactions.
Right.
Cassie could easily said, yeah, then Diddy got his back blown out by one of the escorts. Or, you know, whatever, the other way around.
Right.
Nobody has ever said this. Now, he could be doing those things with like a guy that no one knows about, but you're around all the time.
Right.
Do you think Puffy is gay or bisexual? Or do you think that he just likes this weird shit that kind of like dances around the line of it?
I mean, it depends on what you say bisexual is, because I'm definitely going to say all that shit that she said is bisexual.
It's bisexual-ish.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, like, I just think it's different than actually doing something with the man.
So you asking me if I think he been penetrated or something?
Or he's gotten head from a dude. Because there's been lawsuits that allege this.
Right.
But the thing is, though, right, and you know, because I try to be fair. You know, I'm not just throwing anyone under the bus.
Right.
I remember I talked to a lawyer that was close to the situation.
Okay.
And what he said was interesting. He said, look, there's like 100 lawsuits against Puff. You don't think the feds look through every single lawsuit to try to pull in, you know, the people into this actual case? None of those lawsuits included people in this Fed case, which makes me think that a lot of those allegations are just nonsense or just completely unprovable.
Right.
So everyone, it's a lot different to file a civil lawsuit than to actually take the stand, take the oath, and then lie, and then potentially go thrown in jail for perjury. Right. So do you think that Puff was actually doing really gay stuff with a man, getting penetrated, getting head from a man, like?
Myself, I don't think so, because it's like what you said. I think somebody would step with everybody stepping up the way that they is now.
That's what I'm saying.
I believe somebody would say, even, and we all know, you know, and I love, you know, we all know the bisexual men, we all know the gay men love to scream and tell somebody, yeah, you think you all that, this is what happened.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying, for that not to happen, I don't think he was.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, I think he just I can't even say he's a freak. He's more than a freak. You know what I'm saying? I think he's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone tells me, like yourself, is rubbing cum on some other dude's cum on her nipples gay, I think is gay. I'm not going to argue with you, say, no, that's not gay. Right. I'm just saying that there's different levels to this. And once you cross the line of actually doing things with the man themselves, that to me is, okay, you're actually gay. You actually like physical, you know, intimacy with a male. And I just feel like there's always been a woman involved. And like the Punisher said, he never did anything with Puff. Puff was just there in the corner. You know?
And Cassie said a lot of the stuff that they did in another room. You know what I'm saying? That she would go in the other room. So I think that he didn't want the guy to see that type of stuff. And this, that, and other. So I think it might have just been some type of free. I want my girl to do this, you know. We freak and we turn it out. Some people get.
So the bodyguard never seen what he thought was just not straight gay stuff, but gay stuff. Gary goes and asks, "You're in the Equinox parking lot. You try to break up with Diddy, right?" She said yes. Let me play your audio recording. This is an audio recording of Sean's voice saying, "Yo, we were both tripping," and Jane then sends a voice note says, pretty much, you're right. We need to pick each other up. So it looks like they're agreeing that whatever argument or fight was in the Equinox parking lot, it went too far. So I don't know. By the way, I'm kind of retracting and I'm rolling back what I've been saying. I kind of started out by saying that I think she's more credible than Cassie, because I thought she had more actual facts that would go towards the actual charge of sex trafficking. The more this continues, I'm starting to think, maybe she's not a victim at all. Now, Cassie, I have the same feeling with, but Cassie was crying so much and she was detailing, her story was so sad. So sad that I could see a juror feeling so sad for Cassie and saying, hey, look how pretty this girl is. There's no way she did this willingly. So I can see Cassie's story now flying more than Daphne Joy's story. Daphne's story seemingly is about money. It's about some jealousy. She wanted just equal treatment. She knew she was in a harem. Looked like he was telling her the truth for the most part. She just wanted equal treatment, okay? Equal compensation. She knew she was kind of doing sex work. yo, put some money on my account. Exactly, right?
Years. That's what I think. I have no idea.
I mean,
you know, but I mean, keep in mind he's 55 years old. So 15 years, you get out of 70. I don't think he would take that.
I mean, blowing trial is always a risk. You know,
right?
It's always a risk, man. And jail. There's a difference between jail. Right now, he's in jail. MDC, that's jail. Rikers Island, that's jail. Nassau County, that's jail. Prison is, you know, Attica, Green, you know, that's prison, bro. You know what I mean? So it's a big difference, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to be in jail or prison because it's a whole nother world. Imagine what R. Kelly's doing. Remember a girl was singing, he was singing on the phone? Somebody's wife? Yeah. Like, that shit is crazy. It's shocking to your body. It'll age them fast. It's gonna hurt their body. The food is not the same. You're used to your smallest closet or your smallest bathroom is not even the size of the cell.
Yeah.
It's shocking. So, you know, for me, I mean, I did little skid bits and I learned to stay out of trouble, you know? Nobody wanna be in the can eating that food, hearing motherfuckers' war stories. This motherfucker broke up with his girl. And, you know, pray for Tory. Hopefully he do get better. You know, I don't choose sides with him and Megan shit. Motherfucker got stabbed up. That's terrible. You know what I mean? 14 times. But that's what happens in prison. That's what happens in jail. That's why I tell my young niggas, yo, stay out of jail, man. Stay off that island. You don't be on Rikers Island in the summertime. You don't want to be on Rikers Island in the wintertime. Springtime, every season fucked up on Rikers. One of my little guys from the hood, young dude. You know, he's young. Went to jail, back. He facing the 7 to 15. He tell me, I wanted to cry for him. Yo, yay, I'm facing 7 to 15. I said, he said this time he tricked himself off the streets. So when you do, when you look at that situation we did, you got all that money, a motherfucker because there's more people that don't got it than got it. I say that all the time. You know what I'm saying? They gonna look at like, man, Diddy, you tricked yourself off the streets. Got 500 million, man. Listen, man, go find a wife, or if you want a wife or two, that's on you. Go find a wife and just chill, lay back, stay out of trouble. Don't have the wild parties at the crib, cause you know lawsuits is coming.
I think easier said than done, Chad. Easier said than done. You know, I think a lot of people feel like when you don't have money, you think, what I would do to get money, I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize and lose it, except when you get money, now it becomes thrill and pleasure seeking because the idea of having money is now normal. The same mentality it takes to get money is the same mentality it usually takes to lose the money. The same drive and determination gets it. It's like gambling. A crazy gambler will tell you, yo, I won $2 million. You're like, damn, how'd you win $2 million? But it takes the same person that has because here's the thing, some people, they win $20, they're out. For a nigga to win $2 million, he has a certain mindset. The same mindset you take to win $2 million is the same mindset that you have when you lost $4 million. So when you say, oh, he should just get his money and just stay out the way, Diddy was somebody who was always wanting more. He wanted more. I always keep bringing up this clip. This clip when he gets off the phone. He has a clip. He's like, I'm a monster. I get what I want. Where is it at? Is it at?
I got my MTV out.
Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
Now, I propose to y'all, the same mindset that takes Diddy to get what he got. Because it's always cool when everybody's like, well, if I ever had Diddy money, I would never do those sex parties. The mindset that it takes to be a billionaire is the same mindset that when you acquire it, will probably also cause the pitfalls from what you just got. So Diddy's mentality was, whatever I want, I have to get. He gets $1 billion. A bad bitch is really like, you might look at a girl profile, I want her. She started fucking with you, you got her. 2 years into the relationship, I got her already. Fuck it. Your eyes desire something else. The point is, Diddy got the $1 billion already. That fire never dies. He feels whatever he wants he could get. That might manifest into a woman. That might manifest into a sexual situation. That might manifest into control. That's why he's in this predicament. But to say he got success and then start thinking different and fucked it up, no. The same mentality that got him success got him to where he's at now. A man who wouldn't take no for an answer. A man who was cunning, manipulative. A man who would buy his way. Don't worry if I write rhymes, I write checks. A man who would use money as a placebo, money as a Band-Aid. A man who would do anything by any means necessary. A man who was living life on literally the edge, taking the most ultimate chances. That's what got him his $1 billion. That's what got him here as well.
Yes! What's next? What's next? I gotta get it. I'm not gonna stay fucking down. I'm not gonna stay fucking lying down. I'm not. I can't do that, man. I can't do that. What's next? Give me something else. What can't you do? I can do it. I can do anything. I got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get! Yes! I am the fucking hardest hustler in the world! This is Savage Part 2! Don't tell me about shit! It's 2022 and I'm still a savage! Whatever I want, I get! Whatever I want, I fucking get!
Same person.
Kick in the door.
You think I could book that for like the weekend of the 14th when the soundtrack comes out?
But there's a clip of Diddy when he was like,
I got my MTV out.
Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get! Yes! What's next? What's next? I gotta get else. What can't you do? I can do it. I can do anything.
what the hell's wrong with this dude, man? He needs to calm down. I think that whole mentality got to his head where
I agree.
He got so like out of control that he just started doing.
Puff came back downstairs, he was heated. He said, yo, Gene, I got 126 employees, and these people depend on me for their livelihoods. If these white folks...
Jordan Jane, think of the 20, says, yo, Fifth, did Jane tell you the same things? What do you mean? What do you mean? Thank you for that donation, by the way. Let's get some more tweets in here. Garrigo says, no entertainers that night. So they're talking about the night after the Equinox parking lot where they were arguing and she was trying to break up with him. And they were both tripping. And then they both admitted, yo, we're both tripping. She said, we need to pick each other up, not put each other down. Garrigo says, did y'all have entertainers that night? She said, nah. Right? And Garrigo says, but it was after that video in the Cassie lawsuit that became public. Right? She says, yes. Before that, would Combs write Cassie love letters while with you? She says, I'm not sure. Oh, I do remember. And it gets adjourned. So look like Diddy would write Cassie love letters in 2020. Ooh, that's a good tie-in. Diddy, after Cassie now has kids. Let me see, when did Cassie have kids? When did Cassie have children? They welcomed their first child in 2019. The second, Sonny, or daughter, Sonny, was born in 2021. Diddy dated this woman from 2021 to 2024. So even after she was married and had 2 kids, Diddy was still thinking about Cassie. Cassie was a down-ass B. He was writing love letters to her. We don't know if she ever wrote him back. But would Mr. Combs write Cassie love letters while he was with you? She said, I'm not sure. Oh, I remember. He did. The judge says, I understand Ms. Garagos will finish tomorrow morning. Who will be the next government witness? It's going to be Andre Lamaze and Jonathan Perez. Then our first summary witness, Miss Sankar. When will you rest? Next Friday, or maybe even Wednesday. So the government plans to rest next week Friday or next week Wednesday. What does that mean? I anticipate Diddy is going to put up a defense for the ages. Got to put up a defense for the ages. Gina Hugh, it's time for you to clock in. That's your man. You want to be here after all these chicks done sold out Diddy? It's your time. Young Miami, you want that next Maybach. You want another show. Might not be on Revolt, but you want to get, Carisha, please. 2.0. This your time to get on there and be like, I was with Diddy. I knew about these hoes. These hoes, they were just jealous. Diddy never beat my ass. Diddy just always had fun with me. He gave me money. He treated me nice. Diddy's that guy. Was he off some drugs? Of course he was off drugs. Did he force me to take drugs? Hell fucking no. I took drugs willingly. I know what he represented. When I hung out with Diddy, I got down with a get down. That's his opportunity to present his case. Remember, this is how it works in court. It's not civil court. In civil court, you need the preponderance. The preponderance of guilt, which means if the 51%, if you think 51% is likely that the person did it, you could vote that the person did it. In a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. You have to believe that this person did it. You have no doubt in your mind. The government goes first. Then, so both do openings. Government goes first. Then the defense has a chance to present their case. Sometimes they do such a good job against the government while playing defense, they don't even need to present a case. But still, you should throw some people up there to make sure, could testify to something opposite. You want to try, don't leave no stones unturned. Then we're going to get closing arguments, and then it's going to go to the jury. So if we are looking at this calendar correctly, and they say next Friday, let me look at my calendar. Next Friday is the 20th. Next Friday is the 20th. Next Friday is the 20th. I anticipate that Diddy's team will take at least a week. At least a week. At least a week. So until the 27th, to at least present a case. We might see these bodyguards finally testify. Look like the bodyguards are holding it down for Diddy. All of the personal assistants folded on Diddy. But Diddy's bodyguards, we ain't see one take the stand yet. They might come in and say, hey, Diddy did beat some of these bitches' ass. We broke up fights, but we broke it up in both ways. I broke up mad fights when Cassie was choking Diddy out and Diddy had a black eye before he had to get on stage, and she hit Diddy with not a frying pan, but a crock pot. She hit that nigga with a crock pot. This was a mutual toxic relationship. Diddy told me mad times, get this bitch out of here. He was trying to get her to leave, not try to keep her to stay. So that's what I think Diddy's case or his defense could be. So if we're doing a timeline here, I say 1 week. 1 week for Diddy's defense. So we're going to the 27th at that point. So we're going to the 27th. And if we're at the 27th, let's say they go to the jury, which I don't think. I think they're going to do opening and closing statements on either the 27th or the 30th. That's a Friday and a Monday. Then I think we're going to get to the jury. And I think the jury is going to deliberate for 2 days. And I think we're going to get a jury verdict on the 3rd. Why? If they don't give it on that 3rd, 4th is July 4th, which means they're going to have to come back in the 7th and possibly do it the 7th or the 8th. I think a jury, a verdict today will be coming on July 2nd or the 3rd. I think it's going to go to the jury by the 30th or the 1st. They're going to deliberate for a day or two. I can't see them. By the way, I think it helps Diddy if they go longer than a day or two. What? What else am I doing? If it goes longer than a day or two, and they're deliberating for 4, 5, 6 days, if that is the case, I think it helps Diddy. It might be a hung jury. It's definitely going to be a split verdict. But it helps Diddy because there's a lot of arguments happening up in that jury box, that deliberation room. So I think if we get a verdict after July 4th, granted they rest on the 27th, I think it's in Diddy's favor. If we get a quick verdict, Diddy might as well roll up his bed, pack it up. He's going to be in federal prison for a long, long time. If we get a same-day verdict, Diddy's cooked, I think. That's my amateur thought. I think he's cooked. Quick verdict, cooked. The prosecutor in this case has thrown out too much for the jury to analyze. They're probably going to have to ask the judge a few times for added definitions for the charges that they are going to be voting on or deciding on. They're going to probably say, hey, we need to see that exhibit again. Hey, that was passed around as a binder. We didn't see it. We need to reflect on it to continue it in our debates and discussion. Let's see that again. These are the things that are going to lengthen the process of the jury deliberation. If they come to a verdict immediately, it's more than likely they're going to say Diddy is guilty as charged. So we're looking at July 4th. We're looking at July 4th as the date that we will see. Is going to be right before, right after, we'll see the fate of P. Diddy, a.k.a. Sean Combs, a.k.a. Brother Love. I think Tenny's doing a good job. By the way, the judge says Mr. Agnifilo. So the judge is asking, okay, they're saying they're going to be done with their case by the next week, Friday. How long is it going to take to make your case? Mark says, we'll know more when they tell us which witnesses they're cutting. I think they're still on the schedule. AUSA says, we want 26.2 material as soon as we rest. 26.2 material, we could Google it here. Court. So you got to produce any after witness other than the defendant has testified on direct. Okay. The court, on motion of a party who didn't call a witness, must order an attorney or the defendant to produce for examination of the moving party any statement that is in their possession that relates to the subject matter. So basically, whether they're going to call one of the prosecution witnesses as their witness or they're going to call their own witnesses as their witness, they got to give all the statements that person gave to them, and that's called 26.2 material. Okay, we learn something new every day, chap. AUSA says, we think they've opened the door to Jane's prior consistent We think they've opened the door to Jane's prior consistent statements, her notes before 2024 November, when she got immunity for her grand jury testimony. Driscoll says they are not prior consistent. Oh, never mind. Oh, that's AUSA that said that. We think they've opened the door to Jane's prior consistent statements, her notes before November 24, when she got immunity for her grand jury testimony. Driscoll says they're not prior consistent statements. Interesting.